I would like to introduce Philip Dahl. Philip worked with the Department of Pediatrics IT team from 2003 until earlier this year when he accepted the role of IT Business Relationship Manager in the School of Medicine and Public Health. He attributes the growth that enabled this career transition to his time in the MORE program, where his coach, who's also today's keynote presenter, challenged him to reflect deeply on leadership and what it means. Philip, welcome.
Thank you, Catherine. I am Philip Dahl III, him, graduating class of 2003. And I'm an IT Business Relationship Manager in the School of Medicine and Public Health. And I am beyond excited this morning to introduce you all to our keynote speaker. Laura McCain Patterson served as Associate Vice President and Chief Information Officer for the University of Michigan from 2009 until her retirement in 2016. During her time at the helm of the University of Michigan IT, Laura continued the tradition of Michigan's world-class computing resources and led the university through massive change in the form of the NextGen Michigan initiative, which included major IT service and team consolidations across the university. After her retirement in 2016, that sure took, didn't it? Laura joined MORE Associates as a leadership coach, facilitator, and program leader. It was through the UW IT Leaders Program that I, along with a number of others in this room today, were fortunate enough to have the opportunity to learn directly from Laura as our professional coach as we went through the MORE Leaders Program. It's through this experience that I can say without hesitation how fortunate we are today to have Coach Laura here with us. On paper, Laura's experience leading big IT change at an R1 university certainly seems of practical relevance to a lot of people here today. But what excites me personally most about having Laura here is the opportunity to hear from Laura, the person and the leader. Her impact on me personally in the short year as my coach was profound. It was the example she set. I mean, even the way she listened, as much as any specific coaching direction, that served to reframe my perspective on what leadership is and what leadership presence looks like. So I'm so grateful that we have this opportunity to hear from Laura today. And with that, please welcome Laura McCain Patterson to the podium.
Thank you, Philip. I will tell you, Philip was my greatest challenge in coaching. And I think we can all say he's come a long way, as you could see with that introduction. So thank you. I appreciate it, really. I do want to say it is truly my honor and privilege. I know every keynote speaker starts that way, but it is my honor and privilege to be here with you. And I am going to share some stories with you, and I promise to be truthful. Not everything I did was well loved, and not everything was successful. And so I'm hoping to leave some time at the end for questions, and I hope we get a lot of questions from the floor. As my pleasure in being here is that I actually have a long connection with Wisconsin. I worked at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire for 11 years, and my husband worked at UW-Stout for 11 years. And 2 of our 3 children were born in Eau Claire, and my oldest went to school here at UW-Madison, and she is very jealous that I am here today and she is not, which also gives me pleasure. As Philip said, I am a program leader and a coach for MORE Associates. You all know who MORE is, a firm that specializes in leadership development and that they have a special niche for IT leaders in university settings. Moore has been a partner for many years, and I would just like to see a show of hands. How many people in the room have been through a Moore program of some sort? Yeah, amazing. It says so much about Wisconsin and their willingness to invest in the leaders of technology here. And also it says so much about you. It takes a lot of time to go through a Moore program, and the fact that so many of you made that commitment says a lot about the people who work here. As Philip said, I've been with Moore for 7 years. My retirement from Michigan didn't stick. I failed. I flunked retirement. But before joining Moore, I was the CIO at the University of Michigan, and actually, I was at Michigan for many years, the last 7 of which I was the CIO. When I became the CIO, Michigan had not had a CIO for about 15 years. They had decided that Michigan's culture was just too distributed for that CIO thing to work, and so there was no central IT group or leadership. IT was completely distributed across 19 schools and colleges, all the research institutes, all the departments at the university. And during that time period, as you could imagine, technology became extremely, and I use the word fractured and redundant. And it was in about 2009 that the deans, some of the deans, particularly those from schools that had very large research portfolios, the deans started to sound the alarm that Michigan would not maintain its position as a leading research institution of the state, the country, and the world if we didn't make some investments in technology. What the deans could see, they were up on the balcony looking ahead, and they could see that technology was going to scale and that our fractured infrastructure was going to be an impediment. And in fact, there were a couple of high-profile researchers who had been notified by NSF that their grants would not be renewed if Michigan didn't do something to step up and start to address the needs of research in that time period and in the future. So the university decided maybe they did need a CIO after all. And the deans convinced senior leaders to appoint me. Crazy. It was crazy. There was no search. They just said, make her the CIO, we've got to get going. And I'll talk about that in a minute, why the deans said that. And so I was named the CIO and began to work with the community to launch a strategy for moving forward. And as Philip said, we called the strategy NextGen Michigan. Now, the first thing we did was bring 4 groups together to create a central organization, and those 4 groups hated each other. That was my beginning, and I can talk more about that later if you'd like to hear more. Then we started working across campus to establish governance. If we were going to have a group at the center, and we were going to try to come together in ways that simply didn't exist at the time, we needed to have some governance. So that was the base from which we started. Then the community worked together to start talking about where we could bring technology services to scale by building a shared infrastructure. And we agreed, and I am so sorry that we chose the word rationalize, that we needed to rationalize IT. Now, I'm sorry we chose the word rationalize because, first of all, it made it sound like what we were doing was irrational, and it was, but we didn't need to point that out to everyone. And I wish instead we had said optimize. We needed to optimize IT because we were building a shared infrastructure. That's what we wanted to move to. And that we wanted that shared infrastructure to be used both for running the shared services and the unique services and innovation at the edge. The idea was if we had shared infrastructure, we could drive down cost and from that reinvest the savings in the mission-aligned technologies that the deans wanted, but we could also enable faster innovation because research groups wouldn't have to do the work of acquiring their own servers and training their graduate students to be system administrators. Instead, they could leverage the infrastructure that was in place. And we put the words NextGen Michigan in a cloud because, to be honest with you, we didn't know exactly what it was. It was something that the community was going to define as we advanced, and we knew we wanted to heavily leverage cloud services whenever possible. Now, this, remember, was in 2009, so this is a history lesson. So for 7 years at Michigan, I worked tirelessly to consolidate, collaborate, and build new services that would drive innovation and research, teaching and learning, as well as improve operations for greater efficiency. And it actually, while I said I worked tirelessly, it was not tireless work. After 7 years, I was tired, dog tired, and I made the decision to retire. There was new leadership that had come into the university, new president, new provost, new CFO. NextGen Michigan was not their initiative, and they were unwilling to spend their political capital to keep it going. Half of the deans had turned over, and the deans were my change coalition. And I was faced with the question, wow, do I want to start over building these new relationships, or do I want to leave? And I decided that it was time for me to move on. 8 months later, I joined Moore Associates to pay forward to higher education, my years of experience, and the knowledge I had gained from leading so much change. What I didn't mention was that, and several of you might even remember this, I led the implementation of PeopleSoft before I became the CIO back in 1998 to 2003, when we implemented PeopleSoft Financials, HR. We also put in a new research administration, student administration on our 3 campuses and in the hospitals. And so I had led a lot of change. I believe so strongly, now more than ever, in the value that universities bring. I believe in education. I believe in the importance of it for individuals, the importance for democracy, the importance for society. And joining Moore was a way that I could give forward to an industry that I still to this day care very much about. So I hope that my combination today of knowledge about developing IT leaders, that is my work with Moore, and my experience as a CIO in a university very similar to the University of Wisconsin, I hope I can provide you with some insight that will be of value to you and maybe even inspire you to step up and lead from where you are. excuse me. When I was asked to be the speaker today, I reached out to some people in this room, actually, and to find out, so tell me what's going on at Wisconsin. And I'll be honest with you, I expected to hear stories and concerns about the political environment, both national and state, and I heard none of that. What I heard was optimism and enthusiasm, and I kid you not, optimism and enthusiasm. The first thing that people talked about was the RISE initiative. Now, please bear with me because I don't know all the details, and if I use a wrong word, don't read meaning into that. This is my understanding of the things that are underway here. But I know that the goal of the RISE initiative is to create new innovations for the state, the country, and even the world. And it's bold. It's bold. Research-driven. The effort is to push Wisconsin higher in status, even though you already are very high among research universities in the country and the world. The other thing I learned is that you are transforming the university's business processes in the areas of finance, human resources, and research administration to achieve greater efficiency, better self-service, and better decision driven by data. I understand that your platform is Workday and that the go-live date is July 1. I was surprised that people were so calm when they told me that. I also understand while undertaking RISE and transforming the university's business processes, you are starting to move some technologies to scale, specifically that you have an identity management project underway, and I know that is a very challenging project, and that you are looking at a new approach to data center and data center management. Both of those are big challenges for a research university. Plus, as a CIO, I appreciate that while you are pursuing these initiatives, you've got a whole portfolio of other things going on and continuing to support a major university in research, teaching and learning, the operations, alumni, fundraising, on and on. And so it's breathtaking to me that you are undertaking these initiatives simultaneously. I would say it's even audacious. No offense, it's just mind-blowing to me. And I honestly think, as I prepared these comments, that if you are successful, when people look back on the history of the university, this will be a point in time that people will see significant advancements were made here, driven by technology. And that is if you are successful. And there is one thing, and one thing alone, that will make you successful. Money, and a lot of it. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No amount of money can make you successful. It's leadership. You can spend all the money in the world, and without technology leadership, you may not be successful. Now notice, I didn't say university leadership. I said technology leadership. I'm not talking about the CIO or senior directors. I'm talking about each of you in this room and every person, every technology person not in this room, whether on Zoom or who just weren't able to come today for whatever reason. To achieve the goals this university has publicly stated, it is on record what you are doing. I watched your chancellor's talk and your provost's talk about WISE It's out there for the world to see that you're hiring 150 new faculty. And oh, by the way, when you hire new faculty, they don't just come alone. They bring a whole research team with them. And so what you are setting out to do is really quite amazing. And at the same time, implementing Workday, it's mind-blowing to me. So it's going to take every person here, every person, every single one, to be a leader. And a leader who thinks globally about the university and what the university is trying to do, and then leads locally to bring your department along and align to the vision. Everyone needs to be a leader of change. No one is born a leader. Leadership is learned through experience and commitment to growth. You develop leadership skills. It's a learned capability. So I identified what I consider 4 critical capabilities that leaders need to have in order to make Wisconsin successful. And as I talk about them, I challenge you to do a little self-assessment. You know, just in your mind on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself? 1 being, I don't really do that. I haven't really given it much thought. And 10, wow, I'm an expert in this. And then ask yourself, what could I do to move the needle? And so the first thing, no surprise, since many of you have been through MORE program, is strategic thinking. Leaders set the direction. And to set the direction, you need to get above the day-to-day fray. Because when you lead the amount of change that you are leading, there is a lot of detail that needs to be paid attention to. And it is so easy for people to get caught up in the detail and to start having disagreements over the minute details of implementation, that you lose sight of the big picture and what the university is trying to achieve. And so I would suggest every meeting, you start the meeting by reminding everyone in the room why we are here. What is it the university is trying to do, and why are we here? What do we need to accomplish today? Keep people focused on the big picture, and I think you will find that some of those disagreements about detail that can hold a project up and delay your implementation for months, you can bring people to agreement because they'll decide they can live with it. They can negotiate to a shared solution if they are all focused on a common goal. So, an important time to think strategically is when you are launching an initiative. It's important to get up on the balcony and look across this tremendous community that you have to figure out what IT group is best positioned to deliver the service that we are trying to bring up for the campus, even if just initially. And so I'll share a story about NextGen Michigan. When I brought the 4 groups together, not one of them had any experience in research computing. Not one. And yet what was driving the whole initiative, partially, but driving the whole initiative was the need to establish a research infrastructure and research services. And so I knew if I tried to hire, train, develop, it was going to take too long. But the College of Engineering was running a high-performance cluster for the researchers in engineering. And so we struck a negotiation. We struck a collaboration. The central group would do all the administrative stuff, and engineering would build and run the service. So the central group purchased the servers, wrote position descriptions, posted them for hiring, worked with finance to set the funding model. Engineering, the central group also provided the data center space. Engineering brought up the service and offered it to the faculty. They ran it, maintained it, and supported the faculty in its use. We had the service up within months. The provost said, faculty here won't use that. They don't trust anything at the center. Within a year, we had at least one researcher, and many more actually, from every school and college across campus. And in 2 years, we shifted the service to central IT so that the engineering group could move on to the next thing that was unique to the College of Engineering. So it's important to understand your department. It's important for you to be a strategic leader in your department. Understand the big goals, and then bring your department along the way the College of Engineering did to align to the vision that the university has put out. Skill number 2, collaboration. Research shows that productive collaboration occurs when, number 1, there is trust and respect among participants. Number 2, there is a shared goal. And number 3, conflict gets resolved. That's what it takes for a true collaboration. Your IT community here has a very strong foundation to start from for the initiatives that are ahead of you. We did not have that at Michigan in 2009. We had no IT community. We had a bunch of IT people, but we had no community the way you have here at Wisconsin. But these initiatives and others yet to come, I believe, will stretch this community to an extent not yet tested. And it's more than coming together to share ideas. It's coming together to actually achieve results. And you're starting to see that in your identity management project and your data center project. That you aren't just coming together to talk about what are you doing in your department, what are you doing in your department. You are coming together, and that is going to be increasingly important, that the community as a whole can deliver results. And that depends on relationships. It's all about relationships. You can't collaborate with people you don't know because you need to trust and respect them. And so if you've been through a MORE program, you've heard about the 4 I's, and it is a way to expand your network and develop more relationships. It's a simple tool, but we in technology tend to be introverts, and so we don't find it so easy to do. And so I'm going to give you a challenge. The tool goes like this. First, you initiate the conversation with someone you don't know. You extend a hand or an elbow and introduce yourself, and then you inquire. And you have 2 or 3 questions that every person you initiate a conversation with, you can rely on those same questions. And so if you have some questions in your pocket, it's very easy to approach someone you don't know. I met people this morning that I had never met before, and I'm going to be talking to some of them later on about their work. I want them to be part of my network. But I relied on questions that I usually use. Tell me what department are you in? Tell me what you do. What do you like about working here? That's all it takes. And they're happy to tell you. They love Wisconsin, and they're happy to tell you what they like about working here. And so, once you start that conversation, then you make the decision to invest. And invest means you're going to take it further. And so you may say to them, wow, I'd like to learn more about what you do, or I'd like to learn more about you and your personal life. Or you may find you have some shared interest, some hobby. And so you say, hey, let's get a cup of coffee. Or would you be free for a Zoom call? Let's just take 20 minutes to get to know each other. Or maybe have an adult beverage at the union when you get done with this conference. And the fourth I is influence. You build your network. You build your network, and the broader your network, the more influence you will have. You will have influence here, and others will influence you. And so when you are collaborating, if you have a strong network, the influence will work both ways to help you come to shared goals and shared decisions. And so here's my challenge. You have 4 breakout sessions today, I believe. I challenge you at every breakout session to introduce yourself to someone you don't know and try out the 4 I's. Try out the first 2. You initiate the conversation and you inquire. And when you leave this conference today, you will have expanded your network by 4 people. And then who knows, you go into some meeting to work on these projects that are ahead, and there's somebody you met for the first time at this conference, so you already have a basis from which to start. It's all about relationships, and it takes relationships to deliver results. It takes relationships to achieve alignment to the big goals and the way you're going to get there. It takes relationships to have influence, and later I'm going to be talking about resiliency, and relationships can help you achieve more resiliency. 4 people today. I'm going to hang around and ask you, how many people did you meet? Skill number 3, leading change. Reflect for a moment on your past as an IT leader. Some of you in this room, I know, have led significant change, and some of you perhaps haven't had the opportunity to lead big change like the changes that are ahead here. Technology is emerging at an accelerating pace. The technology emerges, and there is a significant amount of research on this. Technology is emerging faster than humans can understand it and absorb it. And so it's up to us as the technology leaders to be the leaders of change, because the goal when you lead change is to help people understand the why of the change and the how of the change. People need to buy in both intellectually and emotionally. They need to buy into the imperative for the change and understand how it's going to impact them. That's why this idea that you are implementing Workday on July 1 just blows my mind, because that is a huge change for a campus like this. And I'm curious, if I went out on campus and said to people, are you ready for that Workday thing, and have you changed your business processes? I'm not so sure based on some of what you have told me. But when it comes to leading change, perspective matters. Perspective matters. And so as a change leader, it's important to develop the capability to look at a change from different perspectives. And if you are in a department, if you're in distributed IT, and you are working to get your department to align to the Workday implementation, or to align to the RISE initiative, or to align to identity management and data center consolidation, it is important as the change leader to look at those changes from the perspective of the faculty member, from the perspective of the administrator, the student, the alum. Take on those different personas to develop, to think about how it views and feels to them. Another way that you can broaden your perspective is through a tool we teach in more called the 3 lenses. And that is looking at a change from the strategic lens, which is looking at it from the organization of the university. Do we have support from the top? Do we have a plan that people can understand? Is there a blueprint? So that's looking at the university's formal structure. The political lens is looking at the informal structure. Who has influence here that could help us move this project alone, and or influence that could kill it? Is there a faculty member who is highly respected on campus, or an IT leader who could say, I don't think that data center thing is going to work. I don't think we should be doing it. And what would that do to your project? And so the political lens looks at who has influence across the community. But in my opinion, the most important lens to look through is the culture, the cultural lens. And the cultural lens says, how do we do things around here? And are we going about this project in the way that is consistent with the culture of the university? Or is this completely at odds with the culture of the university? And I learned some lessons at NextGen. I will tell you, I never went through a MORE program, and I would have been a lot better CIO if I had, because I would have paid a lot more attention to the cultural lens had I gone through a MORE program. And so practice using these 3 lenses, because perspective matters. And I ask, are you a leader of technology, or are you a leader of change? Because if you are a leader of technology, you must become a leader of change. And finally, skill number 4, take care of yourself and others. Taking care of yourself requires understanding who you are and what makes you tick. And you need to build resiliency. These major university-wide initiatives are tough. When I started as the CIO leading NextGen Michigan, I was 6'2". Just saying, it wears you down. It wears you down. RISE is a multi-year project, and it's going to have multiple projects that keep coming at you. Workday goes live on July 1. That's when the real work begins. All that happens on July 1 is that the system is in place and hopefully the data are there. But the real work of helping people use it really starts on July 1. Identity management and data center consolidation introduce significant change. And again, I know there's an entire portfolio of other work going on here that you have to continue to support successfully. Your reputation rides on it. There will be successes and failures. It will be exhilarating, satisfying, and frustrating. You need a strategy and good habits for taking care of yourself and taking care of each other. Make an intentional effort to regularly take your change temperature and the temperature of the people who work for you and the people you are working with. Are they showing signs of change fatigue? Are they just totally stressed out? And if so, how are you going to help yourself and help them? Develop a strategy for remaining resilient. And I don't know if Will Burns is here or online, but I want to give Will credit for this slide that he shared with us in a BTAA More program, because I think it is so beautiful. Resilience does not mean grit. Grit means you persevere, you push through. And yes, as technology leaders, most of us take pride in having grit. I know I did. But grit without a strategy for resilience can lead to burnout. And I will be honest with you, that's part of what happened to me when I retired from Michigan. I was just burned out. So make an intentional effort to hang on to the things that bring you joy. And no matter how busy you are, no matter the deadlines coming at you, carve out time to continue to do those things that make you tick. That's how you become resilient, and that's how you can stay strong for yourself and the others that you are working with. So these were the four. There are other leadership capabilities that I think are important, but as I understood what's ahead of you and what's already underway, these are the four that I thought were most critical. Carve out time for strategic thinking with a focus on university goals and how to align your department. You are the change leader for your department. How do you align your department to the big goals of the university? Number two, build your network to advance collaboration. Your success depends on the ability of this community to collaborate. Increase your knowledge of change management and take care of yourself and others. As I have worked with the University of Wisconsin-Madison through the Big Ten programs, BTAA programs, I have been impressed, and I say that sincerely. I am very impressed by the people here and the community that you have. It is a very strong foundation. I believe you can leverage that community to be so much more than you are, more than a community that just shares. I believe you can be a powerful community that delivers results and produces transformative change for the University of Wisconsin. And so I leave you with this question: will you rise to lead? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. Are you willing to take some questions from the crowd or online today?
Do I have to? No, of course I am.
That was in
I
the contract,
welcome it.
yeah.
I really would love to have questions.
Excellent. Anybody? Oh, Craig. Actually, if you could stand up, I'll bring you the microphone so people on Zoom can hear. If you could state your name and maybe your school or unit as well.
Craig Cook, I'm with Do It. I was wondering, that strategy diagram that you had, was that the plan all along, or was that something you designed in retrospect on the path you discovered along the way?
Thank you. Did everyone hear the question? That was the plan all along. Now, when I say all along, I was named the CIO, and the part of the story that I didn't share, it was 2009. Anybody remember what was going on in 2009? The country was in recession, and the recession had started in Michigan before it hit the rest of the country. Actually, it was heavy in the Midwest, but especially in Michigan and Ohio because of the dependence on the auto industry, and the auto industry had tanked. And so the state had lost so much funding, and the cut to the university was going to be $325 million in 1 year. And so when we launched NextGen Michigan, we wanted to invest in the mission-driven technologies, but we needed to cut the cost of running technology. And we did an analysis that showed us just how much redundant technology there was across campus, and it was mind-blowing. And we benchmarked that to other research universities, and we were way out of line at that time. And I tried to make the argument as the new CIO, well, the companies in industry, in private industry, that are the leaders and successful are the companies that invest in technology. And so the fact that we're so out of line with everybody else, that's who we are. The problem was the investment was going to redundant commodity technology, not into the technologies that drive the mission. And so we struck the deal. Across campus, let's agree to bring those things that we can purchase or that are moving to scale. We'll bring those together, and then the people in the schools and colleges leverage that new shared infrastructure to help your researchers and faculty innovate faster. And so it was the plan from the beginning.
Excellent. Anybody else? Raise your hand. Online, are any Zoom questions coming online yet? No? Oh, run right here.
Hi, I'm an undergraduate student in the College of Engineering. So as a student, what are some of your suggestions of how do I lead change on campus? Thank you.
Wow, that is a great question. Thank you. Because I don't often get that from students. And yet I do believe leading change, as any leader, but particularly a leader of technology, is some of the most important skills you can develop. So one thing I would say is you need to learn more about leading change. There are methodologies or approaches that have proven to be successful, and I would start there. Helping. The second thing I would suggest, so get yourself an approach or a methodology. And there are experts here in Do It on change management, and they could point you to the things that they have found effective and that they use on this campus. In fact, I think they have a closing session this afternoon at 3:15 on what they did to lead some significant change in the methodology they used. A second thing that's really important, and it's a skill I didn't highlight, but is to develop your communication skills so that you learn to communicate with impact. You want to be able to communicate to a group with impact, so you deliver a message that sticks and really resonates with people. But you also need to be able to communicate one-on-one with impact. so that when you talk with that individual faculty member or administrator or fellow student, you're doing it in a way that builds their trust and builds a relationship. And so the first two places I would start is by learning more about a change methodology or approach, and to work on your communication skills and how you deliver a message, whether to a group or one-on-one, how you deliver a message with impact.
Excellent. We have one more question over here.
Hi, Colin Brown. I'm with infrastructure with the School of Medicine and Public Health. So you had talked about NextGen Michigan, and I was wondering if you would share any special challenges or considerations you may have run into when attempting to work with the med school at Michigan, specifically as it relates to their culture that may have already been there.
Oh. So as I said, I do want to be honest. NextGen Michigan was not universally loved, and we did not achieve everything we set out to do. And particularly with the medical school, I will say. At the very least, I argued, and I know this may sound like heresy, so we didn't get there. I believed the university should have one infrastructure and one identity management system. And when I say infrastructure, I mean deep infrastructure. One of the goals, it's not just about your collaboration. Research is a collaborative effort. No researcher works alone. They work in teams. And the infrastructure at Michigan was a barrier to collaboration. I mean, I experienced it myself when I became the CIO. I would go into the College of Engineering, couldn't get on the network. Go to the medical school, couldn't get on the network. Everybody was running their own thing. And they would say, oh, you can get a guest account. What? I'm not a guest here. I'm part of this community. And so we were able to, the medical school did its own consolidation between medical school IT and hospital IT. They consolidated those groups. And then I brought the health system or Michigan Medicine IT leaders into the governance group so that we would have conversations about what can we consolidate and what do we refuse to consolidate. And so we were able to go quite far on some things like storage, our cloud offerings. The medical school uses HPC on campus. Now they do a lot of their own thing. We could never go to desktop support, and perhaps rightly so. Central IT on campus couldn't run the desktops in the hospital, and they had consolidated hospital and medical school. Unfortunately, when I left, and this gets back to culture, some of the things that we hoped to achieve just came to a dead stop. It's like, nope, now that she's gone, we're not doing that anymore. And so we did not achieve everything we set out to do. And if you talk to people at Michigan, there will be some people who tell you, wow, NextGen Michigan was a legacy. We still have those tiers of storage. We still have HPC. We're moving forward. We've got 3 cloud offerings. I mean, there's so much they can point to. And there will be other people who tell you it was a disaster. We hated it. It was not universally loved. And between the health system and the campus, was particularly challenging. One place we did more than one, but one of the significant places we came together, and rarely as the CIO did I, how can I say, honestly put my foot down and say, I will not compromise on this. We're going to take it up the ladder. Rarely, I think only one time I did that, and that was around security. They wanted to have their own chief security officer, and I said, what you need to understand is that we are one university, and we need to have, when there is an emergency, somebody's got to be able to call the shots, and we've got to have one CISO, one CISO who can do that for the entire university. That we then named someone who reported to the CISO, who was totally dedicated to Michigan medicine, physically in their unit, was called the CISO of Michigan medicine, but reported to the university CISO, who reported to me. And I was very proud of that accomplishment because I thought it was so critical to protect the university's assets.
Excellent. Yeah, we have one question from Zoom to finish up here. Excellent question. Laura, as we finish up here, can you tell the crowd, what are you grateful for today?
Oh my goodness. How long do we have?
About 30 seconds.
Well, I'd be grateful for more time than 30 seconds. So I am grateful for a marvelous career. I will say I love a good challenge, and my career was all about good challenges, and I am grateful for all the colleagues. It wasn't me, it was truly a community coming together, and I'm grateful that I had that experience. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to spend my entire career in higher education. I couldn't work for an industry that I don't believe in, and I believe so strongly in education, and to have spent my entire career, and even my time with Moore, I am grateful for that. I'm very grateful for my family. I have a wonderful husband. He would die if he knew I said that because he's very much an introvert. But I do have a wonderful, supportive husband who supported my career. And I have 3 children who are all successfully on their own, 7 grandchildren, and number 8 is on the way. And I am so grateful for my good health in this period of my life so that I can enjoy my family. I would close by saying, and I do mean this, I'm grateful to be here. It's so rewarding for me to be able to look back and suggest what worked and what didn't. And we didn't even get into all the things that didn't, but so that you can benefit from this, because I do believe your road ahead is an exciting one. And I want to see Wisconsin succeed.
Thank you so much, Laura.